I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. And where fear has gone, there will be nothing, only I remain. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Okay, I'm calm. Okay, wait. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Alright. Alright. Dune on Sega CD. I hate this version of the game. I really do. It's the worst version. Okay. When you're taking a good computer game and putting it on consoles, unless you do it just right, it's a recipe for disaster. There's only a few that are noteworthy and good. It's Ultima Quest for the Avatar on the NES is good. SimCity on Super Nintendo is good. Very good. It's actually a lot easier to get running than the DOS version. I've never been able to get it running on DOSBox for some reason. On the other end of the spectrum, there's Dune on Sega CD. There's SimCity 2000 on PlayStation and Saturn. There's Ultima 7 on Super Nintendo. All bad. I'm going to focus on Dune on Sega CD. Now, the game was originally released on DOS on floppy disks, right? And that version was very good. You know, it was very proto RTS kind of thing. You were Paul Atreides. You wanted to be the very best. The best one ever was. So you go to Arrakis and you start training Fremen to do tasks like mining for spice. You can train them to join your army. And then eventually, after you meet Liet Kynes, you can start training them to terraform Arrakis. And that's actually one of the ways to win the game. It takes longer, but it's completely non-combative. You can completely drive the Harkonnens out of Arrakis, and you can take take the planet easily. It's kind of funny. But where to start? Okay, it's based on the DOS CD version, which is one of the first games with tacked on FMV. If that doesn't raise any bad things, it should, except for the few good FMV games. Basically, what was good about the floppy disk version, they completely messed up on the CD version. Traveling was slower. That's the biggest thing. It took 4 times as long to travel to different places, and it was a pain in the ass. Especially certain parts of the game where you have to look for certain areas by going to a certain spot. Like there, you have to find the siege that's in the fish mouth. If you're not exactly right on the spot, you will not see it. You have to go back and try it again. On the floppy version, it didn't take as long, and it was actually pretty easy to do. But when you get to the Sega CD version, you have a controller trying to mimic a mouse. I don't know why they didn't incorporate the Sega Mega Mouse on this. Bad move, bad form. But it would have helped a lot, and none of my hatred for this game would be valid. It's a real missed opportunity, really. I mean, if it came out on Super Nintendo, I bet it would have used the mouse. One of the few games that used the mouse on the Super Nintendo. I've got a mouse. I've never used it on the Super Nintendo. I don't even have the mouse pad. It's kind of weird. And the way it is, it's very, very clunky using the controller. I hate it. It's also very slowly responsive, too. You'll press the C button to confirm what you want to do, but it's not evident right away what you're doing. Like if you're flying the ornithopter, it's not apparent right on the screen if you've turned or what. and that becomes a real pain because you will really offshoot your target by a lot. And not to mention, if you're flying, you will, even if you don't touch the controls, the thopter will move on its own to the right or left, and that's, you have to keep on adjusting, and you don't know how much to adjust. You don't know how many times to press. And you end up shooting it the other way. I don't like this. This is not cool. Why did you do this? I don't like it. No one liked it. No one played this version, though. It was on the Sega CD. No one bought a Sega CD. Those who did only played Sonic CD or Snatcher. And maybe the Terminator. Maybe. Maybe a few others, whatever. Cut out there. More people played the Coven than they played this version. I don't even think that many people played the DOS version or even the Amiga version. Even in places where the Amiga was more popular than DOS, I don't think this was played that much. But it did get a sequel, which was actually solidified the real-time strategy and actually launched the entire genre. You know, Dune 2, Building of Dynasty, ported to Sega Genesis as Battle for Arrakis, and it's actually a very good version of the game. It was later remade, the Dune 2000, with FMV, good FMV, with John Rhys Davies as the Mentat for House Atreides, and it was kind of funny. It was actually pretty good. Westwood Studios made good FMVs for their games. Well, Dune on Sega CD uses the movie. You know, the movie from 1984 starring Kyle MacLachlan. And, yeah. Underrated movie, but it uses that as the FMV, which I guess saved money. I don't know how. Oh, because they didn't have to hire new actors. But, okay, I'm going to bash the game a little bit, the actual game itself. It's got one of the fastest romances in the entire I've ever seen in the game. You meet Chani, right? If you've ever read the book, Chani becomes Paul's wife. You meet her in a siege, and like when you first leave the siege, you get a cutscene, and it's implied that they have sex. I mean, Final Fantasy X implying there. Every time I see that scene, it makes me laugh, because it's like, that's a little fast. I mean, and they're screwing out in the desert, you know. Whoa, that's not very safe. Worms are attracted by sounds, or do they have to do it Fremen style? Out of rhythm. Yeah. How unsatisfying that would be. But, Dune on Sega CD. Do not play it. Do not buy it. I would say it's almost Shaq Fu bad. Just because it's a computer game that was ungracefully ported to a console. It was a good computer game, but this version just blows. Alright, signing off.